Why is our 269 October All Access Special one of our best deals ever? Let us count the ways. 5 college football Saturdays, 5 NFL Sundays, full month of MLB playoffs, NHL starts October 12th, NBA season starts October 19th, plus any other sport your favorite handicap releases, all for under $9 a day. As an added bonus, sign up early and get the rest of September included for free.
I got you. All right, guys, welcome into another edition, a Monday edition of College Football Daily, powered by WagerTalk.com as we get ready for week 5 of the college football season. And we got 4 games on tap we're going to break down for you with 3 of the absolute finest handicappers, 3 of the most profitable handicappers in college football at WagerTalk.com. Bryan, Leonard here today, Tony Mejia, as well as Mr. Dave Cokin. And Tony Mejia, coming to you, my friend. How was the weekend, and what do you got in store here on a $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk.com?
It was a decent weekend. I hit my 5% on Saturday in a game that one of the teams we're going to talk about, Maryland. Indiana. They got the over with Western Kentucky very late in that game, so I was fortunate. Sunday, not great day for me in terms of 4% and contest picks, but my 5% and favorite play failed as the Seahawks again failed to hold a lead despite being up 17-7 at Minnesota. Just plugging away. Another big weekend in college football and NFL up on tap. Final week of the MLB regular season. I've been pretty hot in that. And Champions League action. The 2 richest teams in the world playing as we speak in Man City and Paris Saint-Germain. And I'm on the losing end of that right now after halftime with PSG up 1-0.
All right. Well, sorry to hear that. But listen, it's early yet. Bryan, Leonard, talk to me, my friend. How was the weekend? What do you got going on at WagerTalk.com?
I split my regular plays, but I had 2 5%, and I lost them both, and they weren't even close. So still 27 and 13 and 1, something like that. But still, just not only losing badly. The Eagles last night and Wisconsin on Saturday, but got some plays up. Got baseball today. Got a college football 5% for Saturday, and still working on the cards. So apologize for the 5%. We'll get them back this week.
Yes, we will. It's going to be a great week here. And Dave, profitable weekend, of course, for you, my friend. What do you got going on here on a Tuesday at Wager Talk?
Well, it wasn't a profitable weekend. I did not have a good day on Saturday. I didn't have any 5% plays. I don't have many of those anyway. And I got out of the weekend even. So I guess I'll take that. But that's, breaking even is not the desired goal here. So try and pick it up this week. I've got 4 college plays up as of now. I've got to add 1 more, which will be a free play. I might have more than that, but still haven't decided what to use as far as the free play is concerned. But they'll be up in the next day or so. And there are some good spots this weekend. A couple of games of my power ratings that look real strong, and some situational stuff that I think should give us a good chance to put together a nice black ink Saturday.
All right, let's do it here, guys. And we're going to start with our first game up, which is going to take us to Virginia, taking on the University of Miami. Thursday night, opening up -3 with Miami, a total of 62. Miami got to beat the Sisters of the Blind here to get back on track, Tony Mejia. I think this is going to be a little bit different this week. Talk to me about Miami, Virginia here.
Yeah, Virginia's defense slightly better, but only slightly than Central Connecticut State. Got destroyed by North Carolina and Wake Forest. Blowout losses in each. Really couldn't handle the either offense. But they may catch a break here because De'Ara King, Miami's very talented dual threat quarterback, didn't play against Central Connecticut State, and as of right now, not practicing. He's got a shoulder injury that's really limited him. We'll probably keep him out of this one, but that's why there's really no stance on this game, because if he plays, it becomes a drastically different situation than if he doesn't. second-year freshman Tyler Van Dyke and true freshman Jake. So we'll see what happens. Virginia's got some issues as well as Miami with starters potentially being out. The key for Virginia is getting back Wayne Talapapa, the running back that gets you tough yardage and is the best pass protector on their team. And as we saw last week against Wake, they really missed him because Brennan Armstrong got hit a ton. Armstrong ranked second in the nation in passing yardage behind only Fresno State's Jake Hayner. So he's still filling it up. He's got a real ton of arm talent that just drips off the screen when you watch him, but needs more playmakers around him, needs more protection. So this is a pick'em game for me. If King plays, if he doesn't play, I don't think Miami's home field advantage down at Hard Rock plays enough for me to not take Virginia despite their 2-game skid.
You want tickets? I know somebody is selling it, pretty much all of them. All right there, Bryan, talk to me here. Nobody goes to that game. Plenty of seats there. 3 straight games over 400 yards passing for Armstrong. Bryan, does he get another one?
We'll have to see. This will be a little bit stronger defense, at least from a talent standpoint for Miami. And Virginia is a team I was higher on earlier in the season, and now looking back after the way they played the last couple of weeks, North Carolina allowed 10.3 yards per play. Wake Forest 6.4. It's a situation for me that I don't know if I trust Virginia. Earlier games against Illinois, North Carolina, 2 teams were way down from, at least in the North Carolina standpoint, way down from where we thought they would be. So what looked like maybe a Virginia team looked like to be pretty good the last couple of weeks maybe has shown that because of the teams they've played who have struggled, maybe a little bit overrated here, as Wake really was the better team in that game. And the only thing that Virginia did was first downs. They've been able to first down a lot of teams. They just can't stop anybody defensively, and that's the concern. The other teams are just scoring on 1 or 2 plays. They don't need many first downs. And Miami's a team that, as Tony pointed out, the quarterback situation right now, they outgained Central Connecticut by 541 yards last week with a backup quarterback. So we'll have to see. Are their quarterbacks that good? If they were that good, they would have been starting already. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a regression from the Miami offense here. But to me, there's just too many questions in this game. It's an early week game. I think it's too tough for me at this point to come out and make a selection, maybe something later in the week. But at this point, it looks like a pass for me.
Dave, better coach, better quarterback with Virginia. Is it just that simple?
No, because the better coach and the better quarterback can't play defense.
Oof.
Look, in their FBS games, 119 carries, 711 yards allowed on the ground. That is horrific. And quite frankly, their offense is a little one-dimensional right now. They're only averaging 3 yards a carry against their FBS opponents, throwing out the game against the FCS team. So, Armstrong's having to do everything. And unfortunately, he can't play defense. The flip side of it is King, don't know what his situation is. And quite frankly, he hasn't been that good anyway. He's not what he was. Okay. He maybe will be down the road. But right now, he's not the quarterback he was. And the telling stat on that is yards per carry. When he's gone out and tried to run the ball, he's got no explosiveness. And when he was with Houston, this guy, he took off. See you later. You're talking big gains on a regular basis. He's got none of that so far. And the 2 backups, there's a big drop off there. I had King power rated as one of the top quarterbacks in college football coming into the season, but his power rating has dropped, and really don't know much about the 2 backups, although neither one of them at this point can be rated that highly. I guess I'll lean Virginia on the coaching, but that's about it. It's not a game I'm going to be considering.
Tough on a short week, too, there. Thursday night, guys, for that one. We'll take a look at this Friday matchup, too. This is going to be a good one. Looking forward to it. We got Iowa taking on Maryland, 8 o'clock on Friday night, October 1st. Opens up with Iowa as a 4-point favorite, over under 46 here. Bryan, well, listen, Maryland can certainly light up a scoreboard, but we know what Iowa's defense can do here. How do you think this plays out?
Yeah, it's one of the few games, since a lot of teams are playing the non-conference games, where we have both teams with the game against Kent State. Iowa's a 22.5 point favorite, wins by 23, outgains the Golden Flashes by 1.5 points per game. Maryland last week against Kent State, only a 13.5 point favorite, 9 points less than what Iowa was against them. They win that game 37-16, outgain the Golden Flashes 7.6 to 5.7. So to me, they played a little bit better against Kent State than Iowa did. And when you go back and you take a look at the teams that Iowa has played, they're +5 in turnovers. They're exactly even in first downs against Indiana, Iowa State, Kent State, and Colorado State. And unless you thought Colorado State was going to be really bad, all these teams are worse than what we expected. Indiana, the quarterbacking just hasn't been there this year with Penix. Iowa State, the only reason they win that game was a +4 turnover margin. They were outgained at first downs by 10 first downs, outgaining yardage by 1.9 yards per play. The Kent State game I mentioned, and Colorado State last week, a game that they failed to cover by double digits. So Iowa, to me, is a little bit overrated. And we saw a little bit of money coming in on Maryland. As you mentioned, it was 4. It got hit. It's down to 3.5. Wouldn't surprise me if this gets down to 3. Maryland's a team that's been very good thus far. They obviously have outgained every team they've played. West Virginia, 168 yards. Illinois, 146. Kent State, 68. But this is the best team that Maryland has played thus far in Iowa. But I still think Maryland is the side here, especially if you can get a +3.5 here before it hits the key number of 3. I prefer the home dog here in Maryland in this contest.
All right, good stuff there. We talked about a team that plays no defense to a team that plays great defense in Iowa here, Dave. What do you think of their chances here going up against Maryland on the road?
Well, look, Iowa's got a terrific defense, and that's what they're going to have to get there with. They don't have much at the quarterback spot. They've got a game manager, and that's about it. And I don't even know if he's a good game manager, to be honest with you. So this team has to pitch play some really solid defense on a weekly basis to win games. And they've been doing that, and it's not surprising. I mean, look, this program has always been about defense first, and it still is. But they've got a challenge here because Tagovailoa, he's getting better by the game. I think he was looked upon as the other younger brother, if you will. You know, Tua is the stud, and this kid, well, he might be okay. He's turning out to be much better than that. And I think the team is starting to have great confidence in him, and I think the coaching staff feels the same way. He's also got a running back that nobody's paying attention to. I mean, you don't hear Fleet Davis mentioned very often, but this guy is putting up some really good yards at the running back position, so it's not all the quarterback. Maryland's turning out to be better than I thought they were. And I think Maryland has a real chance in this football game. Loxley is a guy who we ridiculed at New Mexico, and I think with good reason. He wasn't very good, but he's put together a good staff here and seems to be running it pretty well. And Maryland is a team that is ascending rapidly in my power ratings. I've got this game pretty close, which I would not have had at the start of the season. I would have had Iowa as a pretty substantial favorite here, maybe 7 or 8. I don't disagree with the adjustment of the number. I think 3 might be the right number in this game. So it's not going to make my card, but I'm not going to be surprised if the Terrapins win this game.
All right. Well, Tony Mejia, how confident are you in Spencer Petras and this offense of Iowa? You think they can go toe-to-toe with Maryland?
Not on offense. No, absolutely not. Petras is a mediocre game manager. And to illustrate how the Hawkeyes have won games this season, they've got 1,172 total yards through their games this season, whereas Tagovailoa has passed for 1,340 by himself. Big Ten best, 10 touchdowns, a pick. He's completing over 75% of his passes. But really, the only good defense that they've played is West Virginia in Week 1. That was the most impressive performance he's had. They kind of struggled at Illinois. The Kent State win, they scored 37 points. They got playmakers. Dante Demas, top 5 receiver in the Big Ten. Raheem Jarrett, very young but very talented. But again, I want to see what Maryland and Tagovailoa do against an elite Iowa defense. And then you want to see if the Hawkeyes can do anything on the road. This offensive line is very young. And I think that's what the difference has been. They ran for 54 yards on 32 carries last week and struggling against Colorado State. That game was way more competitive than it should have been. One of their more experienced offensive linemen, Kyler Schott, still working his way back from a hay baling accident. And I don't have any details on that, but you know that it's Iowa. Guy gets hurt baling hay. So another experienced guard, Justin Britt, is out probably with a knee sprain. So yeah, I mean, like, you're going on the road, and they should get some attention down in College Park for this game. It's Tagovailoa on a national stage. We'll see how good he is to get them the win. Certainly, the number, I think, was eyebrow raising, because not that I don't agree that it should be about 3.5, 4, but I was surprised that it wasn't in the 5-6 area, just because of the national ranking Iowa carries. The respect that they have, from a betting standpoint, as opposed to a Maryland team who's really been no more than a flash in the pan. Terps looking for their first top 10 win since 2007, first 5-0 start in 20 years. Will they get it? Probably not. I think Iowa holds on, but it wouldn't be surprising if it comes down to a last-minute field goal and the Terps manage to cover anyway.
All right, 8 o'clock, that game Friday night. We're going to move on to the game that starts an hour afterwards. This one should be good, too, as well. Take a look at BYU, Utah State. Now, apparently BYU not really thrilled about that win there, Dave, over South Florida there. And I know Utah State can't be happy with what happened to Boise State. BYU opened up as an 8-point favorite, total 57.5. What do you think we're going to get out of these two teams this week?
I'm not surprised BYU struggled against South Florida. That was a massive flat spot for them. I mean, a bad South Florida team coming in. They're off big games. BYU is 3-0 in the Pac-12 to start the season, because their first 3 opponents were all Pac-12 opponents. As of now, they are the favorites to win a conference they're not in. And Utah State, tremendous improvement under Blake Anderson. The Wazoo win, I don't know how good that looks, to be honest with you. Washington State's not a very good football team, but Utah State's still doing some good things. And they had to come out of the Boise State game thinking that, hey, we really blew this game. If you look at the final score, I mean, it's a no-doubter. But Utah State first time this year, they made a lot of mistakes in that game. And that could have been a really close football game. So the final score was misleading in that game. BYU is going to have one thing going against them here. They have had the benefit of what was a home crowd at the game in Las Vegas. I mean, there was about 4-to-1 ratio. I mean, it was all BYU fans. They packed the place. And then they had the 2 big home games, and then the South Florida game. This is their first road game, and it's a rivalry, okay? And Utah State is the team that considers it more of a rivalry, because they're the little brother in this one. I can tell you one thing about Logan, Utah. Been there once. That is going to be I was there for a basketball game, so I've never been there for football. But if the basketball crowd is any indication of what the football crowd's going to be like, it's going to be noisy, and it's going to be raucous. I think BYU's going to have their hands full here. Now, the one thing worrying for me at Utah State is Bonner wasn't good last week. This is just my opinion. I think the other kid, Peasley, might actually be the better long-term quarterback there. We'll see. But I think Anderson will go with who's ever warm in this game. I think it's going to be close. I think Utah State's got a real shot in this game. I would take the points.
Yeah, Utah State had done an amazing job of making some adjustments there at the half. And in the second half of games, Bryan, they pretty much dominated everyone except, last week against Boise State. So what kind of adjustments are we going to get from Utah State, you think?
I think Utah State's in a pretty good spot here. Normally, I tend to agree with the line movers. This game opened 8. It's going up to 8.5 and 9 now. If this thing hits 10, I know for sure I'll be on the Utah State side. A lot of things to take a look at is turnover margins and sack margins. And BYU's played 4 games, 3 at home, 1 on a neutral. They're +5 in turnovers on the season. In sacks, they're +6 in sacks. And yet they're 2-2 against the spread. That tells me that they're a little bit overrated here. We go back and take a look at the teams they played. Arizona, we knew weren't going to be very good, and they're even worse than what we thought. Utah's been not even close to what we thought they were going to be. Arizona State's still a good football team, but they're not as good as what we thought they were going to be. And then South Florida, as Tony could tell you, they're terrible down in South Florida. So I don't know if we've seen a whole lot of this BYU team to make them want to be a real favorite here, especially if we get to double digits. Utah State, Dave touched on it against the Boise State game last week. I believe when you take a look at, after the game is over, and take a look at who should have won, when you take a look at the stats, I believe Utah State wins 56% of the time based on those stats in that game. Then they lose 27-3. That score was not indicative of the way this game was played. In fact, they outgained yards per play on Boise 6.1 to 5.4 and outgained them in the game. They just had a -2 turnover margin in that game, and that's what killed them, the 2 turnovers, -2 turnovers for Utah State. So Utah State, what I look for is, can this team cover the spread when they lose a turnover margin? Against Washington State, the first game, they lost the turnover margin, covered the spread by 20 points. So this is a team that I think has some ability that a lot of people haven't looked at yet. They've been sleeping under the radar here, playing Washington State, Air Force, and Boise. I like Utah State here, and it may be one of those games where I might sprinkle a little bit on the money line, maybe a quarter of my bet on that, because I think BYU is a little bit overrated at this point.
So, Tony, it's they didn't play last year, but going back, I think they've won 16 of the last 20, that being BYU. So what do you think? We're going to get a little change here in this game?
Well, I mean, it's a good bounce back spot, if nothing else, for Utah State, because they had their game against BYU started at 10 a.m. local, and it was almost a sellout. This is obviously going to be a night game, a Friday night. So that plays to their advantage. The fact that they get to bounce back against probably the one opponent that they had circled all year, back to back, Boise and BYU. You have to be ready for these 2 games, and they really were terrible against Boise in terms of execution when they did get in the red zone. Boise, which is not a very good defensive team, 3 red zone stands, 2 fourth down stops. They were outgained, and gave up 443 yards. But when they had to get stops, they did. And that's not to say that Utah State can't move the ball against BYU as well, because they have Devin Tompkins, number 3 in the country in receiving yardage, behind USC's Drake London, Memphis's Calvin Austin. So he's not a fluke. Logan Bonner can pass it. I like him much better than Peasley at this point. Peasley is the runner, but I just don't trust him to throw the ball, and you're going to have to score points to beat BYU. I don't think you can play keep away. From the BYU standpoint, and as a UCF guy, I can happily tell you that, yes, Bryan, South Florida is terrible, but they are getting a little better. They got a true freshman there who has given them a spark at quarterback. And they showed up in the second half, and I think that's where the disappointment from BYU lies, and that's why they should be ready for this Friday night stage, because they were flat. They were excited to have Baylor Romney at quarterback. They found out just before the game that Jaron Hall, their starting quarterback, wasn't going to play due to rib injuries, and he should be back for this one. But they've got 2 quarterbacks that are competent, and they can beat Utah State with both. But I think Hall will be the guy. This is a BYU team that ended a 9-game losing streak against Utah. The Utes are not as good this season as they have been, but that was still a big deal in Provo, especially when you graduate Zach Wilson and then you're able to do something you haven't done in a while. So I like the spirit of this Cougs team. I think they will recover from a lackluster second half. I think they'll be able to move the ball with Tyler Algier through the ground and ultimately win this game. Now, as far as the cover, I could see Logan Bonner and Utah State not quitting and then getting a backdoor. 9 points is a ton with a talented team, especially a motivated one with a home crowd behind them. So I probably won't lay the points with BYU. If I'm leaning somewhere, because I'll probably touch this game as a Friday night stage, I would lean to the over. I think we'll get points. Utah State can move it on offense. Hopefully they don't get stagnant in the red zone, and certainly BYU can punch it in, through their ground game and through the air.
All right, looking towards the over. One more game here we're going to take a look at. Boy, this one should be a lot of fun out of the Big Ten, or maybe not. Indiana taking on Penn State. And Dave, I'm going to come to you because I know you got an engagement here coming up, so I want to get your thoughts. Penn State opens up 10.5. I'm seeing 9.5s as well. 52 as a total. Top 5 team now, Penn State. What do you think we're going to see here against Indiana?
Yeah, those numbers are long gone. This is 12, and I think it's going to get to 13, and with good reason. Let me throw some stats at you. This is from last year's game, and normally I don't. Revenge is, I think it's somewhat overrated, but I think it matters in this one. Last year, Penn State 27-16 first downs, 250 to 41 rushing yards edge. Overall yards in the game, 488 to 211. How do you lose a game like that?
Oof.
Well, Penn State did. They lost the game in overtime. They killed themselves with mistakes in that game. Penn State did something really unusual last year. They had 2 games early in the season when they were losing on that losing streak. 2 games where they outgained their opponents by more than 200 yards and lost both games. You don't see that happen very often. Indiana, I think, got to be concerned about the drop-off in quality from their quarterback. Penix is not playing well. I have no explanation for it. He's in a slump to start the season, or maybe teams have figured out something in terms of disguising defenses, and he hasn't been able to figure it out. But he has not been good for Indiana, and he's going to have to be a lot better here because Penn State's legit. This is a real strong team. I think Penn State's got this one circled, and I don't think it's going to be close. I like Penn State minus the points and expect them to win big.
All right. Talk to me here, Bryan. This is, he's right, though. The drop-off has been something fierce here with Indiana. Was Indiana overhyped maybe a little bit?
I thought they were a little bit. My power ratings had them lower than that, but and I'd seen Penix many times, and he's a great athlete, but I just don't think he throws a pretty ball. And that's the problem with Indiana. The offense hasn't been very good. You take a look at, when they played Iowa, yards per point, 38.8. I mean, it took a lot of yards to get a point against this Iowa defense. That's a pretty good defense. Penn State's got a pretty good defense themselves. In fact, in 3 Division I games, FBS games, they've given up 3 points total in 3 games against Wisconsin, Ball State, and Auburn. So that's pretty impressive. And when you're not giving up points early, you can make the plays you want to make, and you're not forced to throw the ball when you don't want to throw the ball. And if they continue to do that against Indiana, Dave's right. This could be a blowout situation for me that Penn State's the much better team. And when you take a look at the schedule, last week against Villanova, no, they do not cover that game. They laid 29.5 and only won by 25. But that's a nice break between Auburn and a nice revenge game here against Indiana, and then Iowa next week before their break. So I think the scheduling situation works here for Penn State, the revenge situation. And Indiana against Western Kentucky, Indiana was outgained per play, 7.2 to 5.5. It just so happened Indiana had 92 offensive plays in that game that wore Western Kentucky out a little bit. But I learned a lot about Indiana in that game, and it's not a team I'm looking to bet on. Line open 10. It's at 12, 12.5 now. And Dave's right. It's going to see 13. So if you like Penn State, grab it before it gets to 13. I agree. I like Penn State.
All right. And Tony Mejia, are you in agreement here? Penn State's the way to look here.
I am in agreement. I watched every second of Indiana and Western Kentucky. As I said earlier, that was my 5% play. And I was praying to God that I would get points in the fourth quarter because it really slowed down. They're late. Indiana was able to score with about 5 minutes to go. And Western Kentucky, as they do, scored late with Bailey Zappi in that air raid offense to trim the lead. Hoosiers escaped. With Western Kentucky, not a very good defensive team. And I think that's what hurts Indiana in this one. To Dave's point, Michael Penix hasn't looked himself, and I didn't expect him to, not early in the season. He's coming off a torn ACL, his second one of his career, and still not there yet, but he's getting closer. And I think after this game, if he doesn't get beat up too badly by the Penn State front seven, that he'll be able to have a stronger second half of the season because they're going into their bye week after this game. But I do think that they're going to go into that bye week licking their wounds. They lost their best receiver for this season, DJ Matthews, the FSU transfer. They've been using him in the slot. He's outshined Ty Freifogel, and he's gone. He tore his ACL in the Western Kentucky win. They were able to run it well with Stephen Carr, but again, that's the Hilltoppers defense. Now they're going into a drastically different world against the Nittany Lions. This is a stripe out for Penn State, which is different than a white out because white out they all wear white. This being a stripe out, they've got the seating chart telling you to fans that need to wear blue, and then it'll look pretty at night. And obviously Penn State at night, whether you're wearing all white or blue and white, is going to be a dynamic atmosphere. Indiana last year memorably won that game 36-35 as Penix ran for two late. So it is a revenge game, but that game improved the Hoosiers to 2-22 all time against the Nittany Lions. They've never won in-state college, 0-11. I think that continues. And again, I think so long as Sean Clifford doesn't leave plays out there, Penn State wins by more than 2 touchdowns.
All right, there you go. That means we are left with just a couple of best bets, and we're going to go to Dave Cokin here first, so we can get him out of here. And Dave, of these 4 games, I'm going to guess maybe the last one. Yeah, I was going to say maybe
Penn State.
Lean in the Penn State one, guys. Dave,
guys,
best of luck, man. We'll see you. We'll see you tomorrow. Go get him.
I got a decent spot, so I'm out of here. See ya.
Go get him. You got it. Dave's out of here. Penn State is his best bet. Bryan, coming to you. Are you too leaning Penn State in this one against Indiana as maybe the best bet?
At 10, I think Penn State was the best bet. At 12.5, I think Utah State will be the best bet. But don't play it yet. We may see a 10 here. And if we see 10, I mean, that's a quality play on Utah State, I believe.
Yeah, all right, Utah State, we're going there. How about you, Tony Mejia? Which way you looking here? If it's Penn State, boy, Indiana not good against the spread either so far this year. Is it Penn State? Where are you leaning?
Yeah, I mean, I guess sign me up for a stripe out. Maybe I'll wear a blue and white shirt too, and be there in spirit. The other game I'm kind of leaning towards, but again, need to make sure De'Ara King doesn't play, is Virginia at Miami. The one thing is Bronco Mendenhall is 6-22 on the road since joining the Cavaliers. He needs to improve on that, but I think that coaching staff is a little better than the U's. And with a young quarterback out there, Brennan Armstrong can lead Virginia to a victory, especially if they're getting points. But again, need to make sure that King doesn't play. If he doesn't, I will probably be leaning Virginia. But yeah, best bet for the show. Let's ride with Penn State.
All right, we're going to ride with Penn State. It's kind of hard. I mean, King is the only reason why you'd want to bet on Miami if he was actually healthy. But him not being there, don't trust that coaching staff one iota here. All right, guys, there you got it. Best bets across the board, including Penn State for Tony Mejia, laying the 12. Dave also. And Bryan going a little dog hunting. I love it. That is my dog, people. +9. Wait for the 10 because it's coming. It's absolutely coming before kickoff there with Utah State. And, guys, don't forget, WagerTalk.com. That is where to go. A lot of great reasons for you to be able to hang out at WagerTalk.com, including the live odds page that they got rolling up. If you haven't seen it, guys, go visit. Stay up to date with all the numbers. And, of course, you can visit Dave Cokin, Bryan Leonard, and Tony Mejia at WagerTalk.com. Best bets and, of course, those 3-day, 7-day, and 30-day all-access packages are up. They're available, and they are ready to go. So I want to thank you guys for hanging with us here today. We'll be back again tomorrow, bringing down 4 more games for you right up and through the weekend as we get ready for Week 5 of the college football season. And on behalf of Tony Mejia, Bryan Leonard, and Dave Cokin, thanks for swinging by, guys. Best of luck with your plays. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Why pay regular price when you can save money on every purchase with WagerBucks at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo? WagerBucks are now eligible for use on not just daily, 3-day, and 7-day passes, but all long-term and seasonal packages up to 1 full year. There are tons of options available for every budget and size of bettor, from as low as $90 gets $100, all the way up to $3,500 gets you $5,000. Save every day on every pick you buy with WagerBucks.